Behind these locked gates was once the state's most popular tourist destination, Ohio's greatest natural wonder.
In the 1920s, Castalia, Ohio would open its doors to what would become one of the state's most booming tourist sites, at its peak bringing in over 165,000 people a year, only to close for good in 1990. Though the site had been around a lot earlier than the 1920s, with written record of it going back to 1760, and it was known to the natives a whole lot longer than that. This is the history of Ohio's lost wonder, and the story of how it vanished into obscurity. The Blue Hole is an anoxic pond and a cenote. In much simpler terms, it's a sinkhole filled with water that contains no oxygen. Due to its anoxic properties, no life can actually survive there. This, along with a couple of other factors, means that the water is incredibly clear. In addition to this, the water originates from a spring deep underground and has a consistent year-round temperature of about 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Combine these two things and you have something truly special, or at least the Wyandot and Ottawa native tribes certainly thought so. It's said that the Ottawa and Wyandot tribes attributed the clarity and consistent temperature of the water to meaning that there must be something special, and therefore it must have some form of medicinal properties. We know that in addition to this, there was plenty of game to be hunted, and as such, the natives spent a lot of time in this area. In fact, when the first European colonials came to the area, native settlements were already nearby. The first written record of the Blue Hole comes from a Major Robert Rogers, who wrote of the area in 1760 or 1761, depending on which source you ask. But nonetheless, he wrote of
a remarkable fine spring, rifling out of the side of a small hill with such force that it boils above the ground in a column 3 feet high.
Major Rogers wrote of the area in such a way because the Blue Hole had not yet taken the shape of a small pond. No one knows exactly when it happened, but some point after Rogers' encounter, a series of internal sinkholes occurred, causing the Blue Hole to take its now iconic shape. At roughly 75 feet in diameter and a depth that allegedly went on forever, the Blue Hole was a sight to behold. During the late 1800s, passengers waiting on their train at the nearby Castalia railway station would wander out of town a ways just to gaze upon the water. Meanwhile, through an exchange of hands, the Blue Hole would eventually become under the ownership of the Castalia Trout Club, or the land that it was on, or in, whatever. The Trout Club noticed all of these people coming and thought, hey, people want to see this thing. Maybe let's spruce the area up a bit, charge an admission fee, and we can make something out of this. So slowly but surely, they built the area into a proper tourist spot. It had everything from picnic tables and lush greenery. It even had a concession stand and a gift shop. They sold things from shot glasses to trinkets to sweets. Everyone wanted to come and see this natural phenomenon. And in fact, in the 1940s, it had even drawn the attention of a local radio enthusiast, wanted to test a hypothesis that the water feeding the Blue Hole originated from the underground river located in Seneca Caverns. Regrettably, his experiment did not yield the results he was hoping for. There were a couple of factors that ultimately contributed to the Castalia Trout Club deciding to close the doors, but before we talk about that, come on, I want to show you something. This is not the Blue Hole, or any Blue Hole for that matter. Behind me, and this way a bit, is the Castalia Trout Club, the owners of the Blue Hole now. And while I did walk back and got a few pictures and videos that I'll put on screen now, ultimately, I don't feel like trespassing, but I felt this was a fitting spot to discuss some of the issues that ultimately brought about the demise of the Blue Hole as a tourist site. There simply just wasn't enough tourist demand for Castalia Trout Club to continue to operate the Blue Hole tourist attraction. The owners of the Trout Club also go on record as saying things popping up such as the growth of Cedar Point, Kalahari, Great Wolf Lodge. Frankly, kids would rather play in the water than stare at it. Honestly, with TV and the internet, it's just water. And that was kind of part of the problem. As Matt Westerhold put it in a 1996 edition of the Sandusky Register.
Tourist dollars more and more were being spent by parents looking for ways to keep their child occupied and happy. And more kids were looking for water slides, go-karts, and video games.
Westerhold makes a compelling point. Nowadays, and even back then, our standard for entertainment had changed. We no longer wanted to just drive out and see something cool. We wanted to be amazed. And with movies and TV and even video games, no one wanted to go out and just look at a hole full of water. This loss of interest really played a vital part in the downfall of the Blue Hole. This all happened alongside the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which would require the Castalia Trout Club to incur lots of expensive renovations in order to meet the new state and federal guidelines. The owners decided that it wasn't worth taking on this cost for a crowd that had simply lost interest long ago. Though it should be mentioned that the original Blue Hole is still back there. You could, hypothetically, fly a drone overhead, like this video here. There are still some who have gone back using more legal means, as for a while the Trout Club held a raffle where you could buy tickets for the chance to see the original Blue Hole. Rather unfortunately, as best as I can tell, they stopped doing this raffle long ago. Beyond that, the owners are on the record as saying it will never be open to the public again. And they said that in 2014, and they haven't changed their mind since, so I think it's gonna stay that way. Maybe one day the owners of the Castalia Trout Club will change their mind or at least bring back the raffles, but if going and seeing the Blue Hole is something that you may still want to do, you can instead find yourself going to the Castalia State Fish Hatchery, which I did go to, only to learn that they're not open on Saturdays. Well, the stream is, but the stream has been oxygenated and therefore it's not quite as clear as the Blue Hole that they have in the back. Thanks for watching.